Peace, friends. Peace, Mikkel. My name is Mikkel White. I'm the campus pastor here at our South Lansing campus. A different word almost just came out of my mouth.
Doesn't matter.
It's fine. Joining me this morning is Shelly Mull.
Good morning.
Shelly, you serve on all kinds of teams here.
Oh, yeah.
Prayer and care team, and small groups team, and hospitality team, and co-hosting. That's enough, yeah. We're so thankful for all that you do here.
Oh, you're welcome.
We have a shout-out question to start this morning. For those of you who may not know, spring break started like yesterday.
Yeah.
So is that like, when you think about spring break, are you like, I want to go on a vacation? Or you do a staycation? Or is that just like a thing of the past and you don't even think about it anymore? Depends on the vacation. I heard a lot of thing of the past. Yeah. I'm in a weird place because my kids are on spring break, but it's also the week before Easter.
That's
so,
fun.
Yeah. No, we've got a lot of great events planned this week, and it will be so much fun. And it's a work week.
Yes.
It's a work week.
Yes.
We have some fun songs this morning. I'm really excited about the set this morning. Would you stand with me and let's sing together?
Has fallen, when fear is coming, you're still calling me. When faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. And I've decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me, you won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it coming on like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo in my soul. Every season you keep repeating the promises to me. There's no stopping what you have started until it is complete. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me, you won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo in my soul. God, you're enough for me. I've decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me, you won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out, breaking out, breaking out. Your love is holding on and it won't let go.
And I really love this song for today because I think it really helps us focus in on where we're at in our journey, where God's at in our journey, and how we can find those places of intersection where we notice God noticing us and being together with him. So this is So Will I. There at the start, before the beginning
wow. Okay, kids, you are dismissed to go to Kids Creek. There's always so much fun that happens in Kids Creek. There's stories and retelling the story and prayers and snacks and playing, and it's all around, I think, a really good time.
Yes, I think that
It's a really good time.
Yes.
All right.
Connection card. All of you should have one in the program that you got today. If you will fill it out and deposit it, not yet in the blue bucket, but that's where it will ultimately
That's where it's
go.
gonna go.
So we'll talk about this a little later, but go ahead and pull that out.
Yep. And then pull out your cell phone. I always leave my cell phone somewhere. I don't know where it is.
Because I hate them.
We can take a selfie later. Don't worry. It's okay. It's okay. So pull out your cell phone, snap a selfie, and post it to your social media with the hashtag SCCMI. And if you do that and we see it, meaning you have to, like, not be on private mode or whatever. You might be featured as next week's Selfie of the Week. This week, we've got Marty and Marilyn and Tara.
Yes.
Yes. And they get Big B gift cards for that. So, post your selfies and you could get a Big B gift card, which is always fun. This week, we're continuing our series. We've been in this series called Noticing God. We're wrapping up the series this week, so if you haven't seen the other messages, you can go on our YouTube page and find them. And this week, we're talking about creation and culture and creativity. And our message this morning begins with this. Apprehend God in all things. For God is in all things. Every single creature is full of God and is a book about God. Every creature is a word of God. If I spend enough time with the tiniest creature, even a caterpillar, I would never have to prepare a sermon. So full of God is every creature. This is from Apprehend God by Meister Eckhart. He was a 13th century German mystic and scholar, and I find that so compelling. Apprehend God in all things. Like, think about the people you live with. They reveal God to you. Your pets, they reveal God to you. Wildlife, they reveal God to you. The people who annoy you, they reveal God to you. The people you can't stand to be around, they also reveal God to you. I saw some people, they're annoying each other and they're revealing God to each other right now, I think. But think about that. Like, do you know how many times I've talked about, like, caterpillars? I've said, that person is in the goo. And by that, I mean they're in this big transition. They're between the caterpillar and the butterfly, and everything is like nonsense. It doesn't make sense. I don't know where we're at. I don't know what we're doing. It's so confusing. They're in the goo, and that reveals God to us, even when we're in the goo. I wonder what might shift in our lives and our world if we really looked at each other like we reveal God to each other. if we honored God in the people we love, in the people who annoy us, in the wildlife around us? Don't you think our capacity to be curious and creative and compassionate would increase if we did that? That makes me want to lean into this idea, right? Like that we're talking about today of creation and culture and creativity, because that's what we're going to do today. We're wrapping up this series called Noticing God. It's based on this book by Richard Peace. It's a really good book. It's not in print anymore, so you could borrow my copy if you wanted to. Now that we're done with this series, I don't need to reference it anymore, so you can borrow my copy if you want to. But we've discussed the ways that we notice God in mystical encounters and in ordinary life, through the still small voice. We've talked about how we notice God in community and in the church, and today we're talking about how we notice God in creation and culture and creativity. And if I had to guess, you probably fall into like one of two camps. Like maybe you're hearing this and you're like, finally, like creation is the only place that I really am confident that I notice God. Or maybe you're thinking, on the other hand, woo, this is a bit too far. This is a bit froofy. I don't know. Isn't it froofy? I like that word. So wherever you're at this morning, I hope that you'll lean in, though. I think there's stuff for all of us to learn and for all of us to grow and be challenged as we consider how we notice God in these ways. And wherever you're at this morning, I want to offer a few handles for us as we consider this. This is like the different ways that you might notice God in these things. The first is the way of effect. That is, how does this affect you? So think it could be, I'm standing with my kids at the bus stop, and I look up, and the sunrise takes my breath away. Last night, we were watching Instagram Reels, and that song, Shallow, from that movie with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, I don't know, if you don't know that song, you should go listen to it. This was like a random performance on a cruise ship, and it gave me goosebumps. It was like, oh my gosh, this song is amazing. This is the way of effect. You're watching a movie and you start crying. That's it. You're being affected by the thing that you're seeing, and it could be in creation or in culture or in some expression of creativity. And the next is the way of intellect. Right? So that's where I'm looking at the sunrise and I start thinking about how the atmosphere affects the way the sun shines and creates these colors and moves through the clouds that are formed just so because of the way that perspiration and condensation and something, I don't know, the way, thank you, my son is coming through for me there. Or this is the way you think about how paints are mixed with different pigments and different elements and different things that go together, right? This is when your brain engages. This is the way of intellect. And then the third is the way of the artist, which is when you're creating, right? You're engaging in this process of creating something beautiful or just experiencing the love of the creator as you engage in this creative thing. So these are some different ways that we can go about noticing God in creation and culture and creativity. And I wonder, I would guess, actually, that all of us have experienced this in different ways. And maybe you kind of lean toward one over the other. Immediately you might look at this list and say, way of intellect, that's how I go. But probably, too, we have different seasons in our lives. Where sometimes in our lives, we're this is the way I tend to go, and other times, you engage in a different way. So one of the things that we do here at Sycamore Creek is we'll pause throughout the message to give you a chance to process and think about what we're talking about. And so we're going to do that now. As you reflect on these three paths to noticing God, the way of effect, intellect, and the artist, which one or ones resonate with you? If you're here in person, turn to someone around you. If you're joining us online, put it in the chat. Let's take a minute and a half to talk about this. So I would love to hear from you as you're processing this. What jumps out at you? You had a great story from going to Pictured Rocks.
Yeah, I went to Pictured Rocks actually with Kathy Brooks. We went up there and we went on one of the boat tours. We were able to go out. And I love rocks. Don't ask me why, but I love rocks. And I collect them. But when we were on that boat tour and we're going up along that cliff and all of that's there, I just tears started rolling down my cheeks because I thought, this is beauty. This is God's beauty. And I was just like, thank you for creating this for us.
Mm-hmm.
And, I thought, I still have to go to the Grand Canyon. I don't know, I'll probably be sobbing if I go there. But I love them. They're just amazing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like I experience all three of these frequently. Like, I don't know if there's one that necessarily, like, I lean toward. I think it just depends on the day and kind of where I'm at emotionally and what effort I have. Like, I enjoy the way of the artist sometimes, but, like, I'll get to that later, like, what keeps me from being creative. And sometimes things do keep me from being creative. I think maybe the easiest one to access for me is the way of effect. Like, because you don't even have to be doing anything. You just look up and there's the sunrise and you're like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So I love that. That's really fun.
But Google makes it easy to go to the intellect. That's what
That's true.
I do love that. I have questions that pop in my head and I can just go, I'm going to go ask that,
Yep.
And
my kids like me to ask a lot of questions from Google too. Yeah. All right. Well, no matter what path feels most natural to you, I hope that today has some encouragement and some challenge for you. I pray that we'll all learn something new together as we're leaning in here on what it means to notice God in creation and culture and creativity. So we're going to start with creation. Now, sometimes it's easy for me to use that word creation as just a stand-in word for nature. Like, I looked all over creation for that thing, right? But when I stop and really think about it, like, that word creation is a reflection of the reality that there is a creator, that there is God who creates. Now, I'm not going to speculate on how God creates or how God created the world. That is not my lane, and that's not the focus of today, right? But we're just starting from the basic assumption that God is creator. God created the world. And Richard Peace notes that noticing God in the wonder of creation is a rather different journey than attempting to use creation as an argument for God's existence. So I want to make it clear that we're doing the first thing here. We're talking about noticing God in the wonder of creation. I'm not going to attempt to build an argument for God's existence based on creation. That's not what we're doing today. But noticing God in the wonder of creation, that can be So powerful. I want you to just think back to your last meaningful experience in nature. Like, take a minute and actually think back. When was the last time that you were, like, struck by nature? It might be a sunset. It might be a trip that you took. It might be watching the light move through the trees at golden hour, right? For me, I would think about, there was a trip that I took recently with Pastor Tom and Pastor Mark. Someone let us use their lake house on Lake Huron. I very wisely forgot my coat that week because when we left, it was 70 degrees, and then it went to 40. And so I enjoyed this view from inside the house, but it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. And Pastor Mark took a walk on the beach. And like, even just that noise, like the full sensory experience of like the light moving in and then the waves and like the sand and the whole thing. Beauty, power, intricacy, elegance, and order in creation can evoke the strong emotional reaction of awe, wonder, delight, longing, deep stillness, even reverence. It's a short step from awe in response to creation to even deeper awe for the Creator. So we're looking to like bridge that gap today, to think about what that looks like, from awe in the wonder of creation to awe for the Creator. The emotions that we feel when we encounter creation are an invitation for us to experience that awe for the Creator. And this is really another way to describe the way of effect, right? That awe that we feel when we look at creation. If you see creation and, like we said, your mind engages in the weather patterns and the other things that are happening, well, that's the way of intellect. And if a beautiful landscape inspires you to recreate it in some way, to paint or to draw or write a poem, I don't know. There's probably some other way. Not everybody's going to write a poem, but some people might, right? That's the way of the artist, okay? Now, I love how the Apostle Paul talks about how creation and faith intersect. Paul says the basic reality of God is plain enough. Open your eyes, and there it is. By taking a long and thoughtful look at what God has created, people have always been able to see what their eyes, as such, can't see. Eternal power, for instance, and the mystery of God's divine being. There's something that we sense in creation that's beyond what we really can see with our eyes. There's a power that we sense in creation that we otherwise can't see. And then there's this place in the Old Testament where the psalmist reflects on creation, saying, "The heavens proclaim the glory of God. The skies display God's craftsmanship. Day after day, they continue to speak. Night after night, they make God known." They speak without a word or sound or word. Their voice is never heard, yet their message has gone throughout the earth and their words to all the world. I love thinking about how creation is proclaiming the glory of God to us, if we can only see it and notice it. There's something about the nature of God that's revealed in creation, God's bigness, God's precision, God's creativity. So we've noticed God in creation, and next we're going to talk about how we notice God in culture. See, the thing is that in all the pieces of God's creation, there's one part in particular that reflects God's nature more than anything else, and that's humanity. Richard Peace says, perhaps the most amazing aspect of God's work as creator is God's creation of human beings. We are created in the image of God, and as such bear the marks of God in us and upon us. Culture is what we humans make of creation. Our cultural products give testimony to the reality of God when we have eyes to see and ears to hear. I love the symmetry here, right? Where God as creator creates humanity in God's image, and then so we have the ability to create because we're created in the image of a God who's creator, and then we create and reflect God's image back. That's pretty amazing to think about, really. We create art and stories and film, architecture, systems, spaces. Like, you may not consider yourself creative, but I bet there's some part in your life that is creative, even if it's like Excel spreadsheets. Have you ever thought about creating an Excel spreadsheet as an expression of creativity? Because I have. Like, if you've really watched someone who knows what they're doing with an Excel spreadsheet, who can create those pivot tables, I don't even know what those are. But there's a thing that you can create. And there's a person on Instagram at Excel Dictionary, and she shows you all these hacks. And I don't even use Excel that much, but I'm just fascinated by it because she's like, you can throw in this image and then program it to pull the data out of the image and then create a chart. I'm like, what? You can do. Right. I mean, it's amazing. Excel spreadsheets can be an expression of creativity. There's something that happens when we as humans interact with each other and make meaning out of the world. That's culture, right? This is what we humans make of creation. Now, just like creation, culture doesn't prove that God exists. But wow, when you step back and observe those cultural artifacts, it's hard not to marvel at humanity. Think about those moments where you step back and you think, who came up with that? Who thought of that? Whose brain just said, that would be interesting to try, and then it worked? Like, that amazes me. Have you ever watched a person crochet and like marveled at how they're moving the hook and the yarn together over and over, and then it like creates chocolate-covered strawberries? And you're like, what? How is that even possible? And if you're the person crocheting, that is the way of the artist. Did you also know, this is in a sort of different direction, that enslaved Black Americans would braid maps into their hair to find a way to freedom? Like, what? Now, I obviously, like, the situation that led to this kind of creativity is something to mourn, and, like, it's awful. But the creativity to, like, I have goosebumps. Like, I can't even comprehend the ingenuity that leads to something like that. To use hair for freedom. Now, sometimes conversations like this can start to feel a little bit esoteric, like artsy-fartsy. I know I'm not the only one who grew up hearing that term, right? Maybe? Artsy-fartsy? Okay. But one really accessible medium to talk about this is movies and film. Films are often a really good way to generate conversations about religion. So think about A Man Called Otto. This is based on a book. It will make you cry. It's about aging and death and immigration and expanding your horizons. It's an amazing film. It will make you cry. Don't tell me I didn't warn you, okay? Watch this expecting to cry. All right, Doctor Who, not a film, but a TV series. This is about an alien who goes around saving universes in the world over and over and over, and instead of having a gun, he has a sonic screwdriver and 2 hearts. Well, there you go. I love that show, by the way. The Doctor demonstrates a value for life that challenges us to grow our compassion for one another and challenges our commitment to peace. So good. Barbie is a movie that explores the ways that misogyny affects both men and women and restricts us to roles that are really too small to encompass our whole humanity. Film and movies are invitations for us to reflect on our own humanity. Like, even when there's stories about aliens, that's an invitation for us to think about what makes humans human. What is uniquely human about us? We have a chance to reflect on themes of forgiveness and hope and healing. One of my personal favorite examples of this, I've already given you a few, but here's one that I want to spend a little bit more time on. It's from a book that was turned into a musical as a couple of movie adaptations. Les Miserables. It's coming to Wharton this season, just in case you didn't know that. This is a story about a man named Jean Valjean. And at the beginning of the story, the audience sees him being released from imprisonment. He's been in prison for like 20 years for stealing a loaf of bread. And when he's released, he's on something like parole. Like, he's got these papers that mark him as an ex-convict. It will follow him forever. And so right away, you see that he has trouble getting work or a place to sleep or food. Everyone's rejecting him because of his status as an ex-convict. Until finally, this bishop takes mercy on him and offers him a place to sleep, a hot meal. At this point, Valjean is like desperate, feeling really hopeless, so he steals the silver and leaves in the middle of the night. He's caught not too long later by police, and he tells them a lie. He says, "The bishop gave me the silver. I didn't steal it." Well, of course, the police don't believe him. So they drag him back with the silver to the bishop, and the bishop says, "Why didn't you take the candlesticks that I offered?" That gets me every time. Like, I cry every time I see that part of the movie, because it sets him off on this new journey. Like, he's able to take the silver and the candlesticks and start a new life and work for justice and goodness in the world. And it's beautiful. And so when I cry, well, that's the wave effect. And when I watch the show at Wharton or wherever, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the sets, the stamina of these actors and actresses, how is this moving? How are they changing their costumes? That's the way of intellect. The power of film, using story, metaphor, sight, and sound, it can open us up to noticing God in new and surprising ways. Music and literature and painting and sculpture and dance and theater and these things push us beyond ourselves to reflect on our understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. The human imagination is filled with the God who is creator. So let's pause here for another chance to reflect, a chat question. What's one place that you've noticed God in culture? Like in music, literature, painting, film, dance, theater, fashion. It's where humans are making meaning and creating things together. Where have you noticed God? Take about a minute and a half and let's talk about it.
the original group.
All right. So Shelley, where have you noticed God in culture?
Well, one of the places I noticed was in this book, The Freedom Writer's Diary. I don't know how many of you have ever read this, but it's just an amazing book. There's also a movie after this book, and it's about a teacher that's out in Long Island, California, and how she is assigned to these kids who basically are the failures. They don't expect to succeed. Other people in the school system have written them off, and they aren't going to graduate, and she sees them from totally different eyes. There's really not, I don't remember a mention of God in here, but you see God. I mean, when Tom said, you know, in one of the previous messages in this series about if it shows love, then you know it's God. And there is so much of that, of how much she gives. I think there's a lot of teachers. I know we have a number of teachers in our congregation, you know, that, and I'm sure many of you are giving love every day to those kids, and I thank you for that. But yeah, it's just amazing, the things that...
I think you bring up a good point, and it was sort of implicit in some of the things I talked about before, but that the culture doesn't have to be Christian for it to reveal God to us.
No.
Or for us to prompt discussions about God or religious things. There's lots of ways that we can engage and notice God.
Yes.
Apart from Christian things.
Right.
So don't worry, I'm not telling you that you have to listen to only Christian music or watch only Christian movies. So you're off the hook on that one. All right, so let's look to our final topic, which is noticing God in creativity. Now remember that God is we are made in God's image. Humanity is made in God's image. And since God is creator, when we create, we're reflecting back to God, God's image, and back to the world. We're reflecting God's image to the world. The act of creation itself is often spoken of as an opportunity for noticing God. Now, when creativity, in these words, creation, creativity, say them 3 times fast. It's hard to get it all right. So when creativity comes up, many of us will rush to say, well, I'm just not creative. That's just not me. And I mean, I'm guilty of this sometimes. Pastor Tom and Mark and I will joke, Pastor Mark and I will joke that our creative planning meetings are not as creative when Tom is not present. And there's some truth to that, the specific kind of creativity that takes a series and then puts in creative elements. That's not my strong suit. That's not Mark's strong suit. It is Tom's strong suit. So we work best as a team. But I bet, before you rush to saying, right, well, I'm just not creative and therefore I can't relate to this, I'm going to check out. I bet that there's some place that you're creative. Because setting up science experiments is an expression of creativity. Building things is an expression of creativity. Planning vacations and trips is an expression of creativity. Baking can be an expression of creativity. My kids are loving that show, Is It Cake? I know, it's so good. Right? It's mind-boggling. It's an expression of creativity. Organizing a space for flow and design and whatever, that is an expression of creativity. Planning your grocery shopping trip to make meals and then go, especially if you can plan it so you don't have to go down the same aisle 5 times, that's an expression of creativity. Fixing a car and being creative. My husband is what did you do? You took a coat hanger to fix the heat shield? Yeah, that's an expression of creativity. Mixing sound and doing the video and all that stuff, that's an expression of creativity. Playing restaurant with your kids, that is an expression of creativity. I would bet that everyone here is creative in some way or another. But maybe you've just never categorized your creativity in that specific way. Now, I would say that when we, consider creativity in this way, then we're we're thinking about the way of intellect and the way of the artist. And those can be difficult to separate, because if you are setting up a science experiment, I'm hoping that you're using your brain and your intellect, and also that's the way of the artist, because there's an expression that's happening. There's something that's coming together. And then the way of effect might happen when you step back and observe, like, the finished product, what's come together. In the creative process, we're touching God in us and around us. And art then is a response to God. It's a praise of God. It's an offering to God. It's a teaching about God. It's the fruit of listening to God. And it's a celebration of God. So I wonder what keeps you from engaging God in this way? I would say lately my go-to creative process would be painting. I got a set of watercolor paints for Christmas, and I enjoy painting. And there are two main things that keep me from pulling out the paint. One is super practical. The best place to paint in my house is the dining room table. And we dine there. And so we get out all the brushes and the paints and the paper towels and the cups of water and the masking tape and the scissors and all the different things. And it's all out there. And then it all has to get put back away before we eat. And so that can sometimes keep me from being creative. The other thing that can keep me from being creative is my own, comparison to what other people do. Because someone in my house makes things like this, and then I start to think, I can't do that. I can't do anything like that. And I start to think people will look at what I'm making and what my husband makes and, compare us, and maybe they will, but, I think most people I know are really kind and generous and wouldn't make any disparaging comments. You know, I might sometimes think them in their head, but probably not. Probably most people are just going to be really kind. And I have to remember, right, that even if people did think that, even if I think that, the creative process is more about me trying something new. I'm an Enneagram 1, which means that I'm a perfectionist and I really don't like failing. And so creating is a chance for me to live out the truth that, I don't have to be really good at something to enjoy doing it. I don't have to be really great at it. Although you'll notice that I didn't put a picture of what I paint, which I just realized. That's okay. That's okay. But really, this is an opportunity for me to experience God's love as I reflect, as I create, as I embrace the truth that I don't have to be perfect for it to be enjoyable, for it to be worthwhile, for it to be worth the financial investment on the paints or whatever it is, right? I can just enjoy it. I wonder, though, what are those things for you? What keeps you from being creative? Where do you enjoy being creative? It might be science experiments, right? It could be anything. But let's take a minute and just reflect on this. Where do you get creative, and what keeps you from engaging in that creativity? Let's take a minute and talk about it. All right. So I shared some of what keeps me from being creative. I would also add that, like, just my emotional state. Sometimes if I'm just feeling overwhelmed or down, like, I just don't have, like, the energy to, like, get up and try something new. But what keeps you, what is your creative outlet? And what?
One of my favorite ones is gardening. Like, I love gardening and putting together my yard. And of course, it gets to morph and change as you realize that some of the things you plant that, oh, they don't work so well there, or they get too overgrown and you got to move them. And it takes some of the intellect to, you know, because I have lots of shade and lots of clay, which those aren't the favorite things for
So
all
there's
plants.
some restrictions.
You know,
Yeah.
You know, for lots of vegetables and lots of flowering plants, those aren't the best things, especially that shade. And so, you know, it just takes a lot of planning and effort, but it's so much fun, you know. And even mowing the lawn, you know, like as you mow it, and it just ends up being this beautiful blanket of green. And I'm like, yes.
And you get to step back and like, oh, that's
Yes,
so nice.
yes.
Yeah.
So all gifts from God to me.
Yeah,
You know?
I love that. I love that. Well, let's continue on with our last segment. So as we wrap up this series, I just want to take some time to reflect on some of the different topics we've explored during this series and some of the things that we've learned. The foundation of everything that we've talked about is that it's not just that we want to know about God. We want to know God. And so our prayer throughout this series is that you would find ways, like find paths to know God more intimately, more personally, more truly by noticing God in your own life. And we're constantly asking ourselves this question of, like, is it really God? We have some discernment practices. We're asking, like, how does this thing that's been revealed, like, is it consistent with the Word of God? Does the community of God affirm that? And does this thing that we've heard from God, does it, like, produce the fruit of God? We notice God and we respond to God. And the space between noticing and responding is where we stop for that engagement process, that discernment process. And sometimes that pause between noticing God and, like, responding to God, it happens like that. Because it's about receiving God's encouragement or comfort or love. Like, you don't have to spend a lot of time reflecting before you respond by receiving, right? But if the invitation, if the response that you think that you're, like, working toward, it involves changing your whole life, moving to someplace else, or, like, disrupting a whole bunch of stuff, your discernment time is going to be longer. That pause between hearing and responding is probably going to take a little bit longer as you interact with the Word of God and the community of God and engage these things, right? So this is part of how that discernment process works. And we started this series talking about noticing God in mystical encounters. These are like those flashpoints, the events that are difficult to describe. They're pretty fast. God is the primary actor, the primary agent in those events. They might be seared into your memory. And then in our second message, we talked about noticing God in the ordinary, because we need a God of the mountaintop, and we need a God of everyday, ordinary life. And remember, we talked about the prayer of examine and how we reflect on the day before and where God was at. And we talked about Ignatian contemplation. And that sounds really technical and big, but, like, you could just go download the Pray As You Go app, and that will lead you through that prayer every day. And then in our third week, we learned about how sometimes God speaks to us in a still small voice. And that's really where we talked about the importance of discernment and listening to each other and to the Word of God and noticing the fruit of God. And then last week, we looked at the ways that God's presence is noticed in the community of God and in the church through things like small groups and receiving communion together and all kinds of other expressions of how the people of God come together. And this week, of course, we've talked about noticing God in creation and culture and creativity. And there's a way in which all of these things kind of work together. Like, you can get kind of unbalanced sometimes. If you're only noticing God in one of these ways, you're probably missing out on God's presence in another area. And I'll tell you, like, there are bits and pieces of like this particular message of creativity and also like community and like how it all played into this message as it is right now. Because I wrote this message a few weeks ago, and then I previewed it. When did I preview it? Like the first week of March. And then and we planned the series like back in the fall. And then when I say I previewed this message, I mean I gave it to Mark and Tom, and then they gave me feedback, and it got better because of their feedback. And then I filmed it with Randy, and so the one that's online, I filmed that with Randy, and then he's creative in that, and he's like moving things together, and it's like even better than I certainly could not make the online thing look as good as he does. So and then there's like these people that are helping right now, like with the video and the sound and the presentation, and like all of this stuff comes together. It's not just me, but our community is working together to be more creative. And this happens in real time every single week. And I love this. I love this. I love how God shows up in these different ways. And we think about this, apprehend God in all things. For God is in all things. Every single creature is full of God and is a book about God. Every creature is a word of God. If I spent enough time with the tiniest creature, even a caterpillar, I would never have to prepare a sermon. So full of God is every creature. Our prayer is that through this series, you will have gained practical tools for apprehending God in all things. To notice God in the tiniest creatures, even a caterpillar, right? And that you would notice God more in your own life and experience God in all of these different things. And that the more you experience God in your own life, the more you'll experience the transformation of the Spirit, becoming more and more like Jesus. And our prayer truly is that you would know God, not just know about God. Now, that's the end of our series. And next week, we're starting a new series, and we've got some things happening between now and then. We've been talking about creativity, and I mentioned our creative team. And so I hope that you'll enjoy these creative announcements.
On an adventure filled with peril and triumph, only one thing can keep us together. Inspiring adventure announcements! You're already a hero and you'll need allies for the events to come. Your connection card is your first stop at connecting with something bigger than yourself at sycamorecreekchurch.org/connect. Write your name and email and any other information and gather your allies for the quest ahead. There are people in need in your community, and by bringing in deodorant, toothpaste, soap, and more, you can be a hero to those in need in your community. Bring in household items throughout March and donate to Compassion Closet. You're out in nature, out in the wilds of Lansing, and all your strength is needed as we serve together for the Family Service Project at Fenner Nature Center. Clean up after the Maple Syrup Festival and get the Nature Center ready for spring with your family and fellow adventurers on Tuesday, March 26th at 3 p.m. Find respite among your fellow heroes at Buddy's in Holt for Easter in a pub on Thursday, March 28th at 7 p.m. Bring a guest to treat them to a free burger and fries and tell a rousing tale during discussion and worship at your table. The hunt is on for Easter eggs at Scott Woods Park on Saturday, March 30th at 11 a.m. It's always darkest before the dawn. Prepare yourself for life's adventures with the Easter sunrise service at Crego Park, Sunday, March 31st at 7 a.m. And gather your allies and friends all around you for worship on Easter Sunday, March 31st at 10:30 a.m. right here at South Lansing. Thank you for your giving that saves your community one step at a time, your giving that lifts up and inspires around the world. You can continue to give at sycamorecreekchurch.org/give, at the blue buckets by your seat, through mail, through the app, and so many other ways. Your continued adventures inspire us all. Thank you, and let's take it back to the worship space.
All right, yay, Carola. Let's pull back out that connection card, turn it over. There's opportunities to indicate, where you might be interested in attending or helping out. And then there's also a place where you can write your prayers, praises, and our prayer team will be praying about those. So, and those do go in the blue bucket now when you're done with them.
Just drop them in there. And then also in your program, you've got this nice little card. It's got all of our Easter events on there. So definitely be checking that out. They're all happening this week. Tuesday, I did find out our family service project at Fenner is going to be cleaning up after the Maple Syrup Festival. So they just had the Maple Syrup Festival on Saturday, and so we're going to be helping clean up, helping take care of the space after that. So definitely show up for that. And there's all these other ones. What's your favorite one?
I think I like the sunrise service. I know, we don't get a ton of people who go, but I've gone for numerous years. We've gone a variety of places, and this year we're going to Kriegel Park, which is just down Mount Hope a little bit. Down Fidelity Drive and at the end, and so it's just kind of a nice little place. So you might want to check that out. It's a little cold usually.
But, dress warm.
But and it's not a long service, but it's just a different way of starting Easter morning.
There are lots of ways that you can give this morning. You can go to this website, sycamorecreekchurch.org/give, or scan the QR code. You can drop a gift in the blue bucket if you'd like. However you choose to give, we're so thankful. We also want you to know that last week was our generosity drive, and it's not too late to make a pledge or give a gift. I bet you'd like to know what the results are of our generosity drive. I don't know what they are. So next week, you knew. I mean, if you knew I wasn't going to tell you because I don't know. But hopefully we'll have those results next week and we'll be able to celebrate together. We do want to celebrate one place that your giving has made an impact this week. We had a gathering. We had 16 people come and help us stuff eggs. We have I don't even know exactly how many eggs we have. It's got to be around 600.
Wow.
600 eggs. And I thought we had enough plastic eggs, and then we ran out, and we had to go get more because so much candy had come in. And so thank you for your generosity, for giving so generously to this, and for showing up with your time, too. So, all right, we've got one more shout-out question for you. What is your favorite thing about church events at Buddy's? The band, the food, the chill vibes.
Seeing new people or
seeing new people.
Yeah, that you don't always see.
Yeah, like Potterville folks come to seeing the staff. Like we used to have a long-standing relationship with Buddies, so we know a lot of the people there. Well, we still have a long-standing relationship. We used to be there every week, is what I mean. And so we know the staff, and it's fun to see them. So I hope that we'll see you there on Thursday night. Would you stand with us and let's sing? Oh,
we have one recommendation about Buddies. If you're going to come and eat, and you want to eat during the service and not have to stay late because it gets busy sometimes, we recommend you get there a little early, half hour, 15 minutes early, so that you can get your food ordered.
That's a good point. Yeah. We usually have 75 people there, and there's 2 servers.
So it's
keep that in mind when you're thinking about when to come. All right, let's stand together.
All right. I love this song because it fits perfectly with our message today. It's all about noticing God in the ways that God is beautiful all around us. So let's sing together.
of self away. How the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
I'm so glad that you joined us this morning. I hope that you'll join us next week as we start our new series, The Good News for the Person Who Has Everything. And we have a special treat that you can watch our like roll-in video to get a little glimpse of what it's going to be like. And then we hope to see you next week. And until then, be curious and creative and compassionate.
If you're not sick or poor, what does Jesus have to do with you? Is religion really just a crutch for weak-minded people? Or is there something more? In this 5-week series, you can find answers to the question, what is the good news for the person who has everything?